Hey, what's up, everyone? It's me, your boy Ryan Flowers, aka Clutch Sports Talk, and I'm back in the house with my AFC West preview. Man, the season is fastly approaching, and I want to make sure I go through every division. But I'm going to start out west. But before I get into this video, make sure you guys, if you haven't already, like and subscribe to my channel. Be one of the best decisions you've done for all of your NFL needs. So let's just get straight into it. So I'm going to start out west because I here in my hometown, I guess in Las Vegas, Nevada, we got a team called the Las Vegas Raiders. Right. And so basically what we're going to be doing, we're going to be breaking down each team, and I'm going to start with the Raiders, and we're going to talk about some of their questions, some of their things going on offense or defense, coaching questions, things that might be an area of concern. And I'll wrap up each segment with kind of a prediction of how many games this team will particularly win. And like I said before, we're going to be starting with the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, there's a lot to unpack with this particular team. Number one, starting with the head coach. Now, Antonio Pierce is now the official coach of the Las Vegas Raiders. They removed that interim tab after the season ended, and they finished pretty well. But a lot of questions really concerning around the quarterback position. Who will be the starting quarterback going into this season? Will it be Aiden O'Connell or would it be Gardner Minshew? Now, that battle is still be playing out for us here in the next couple of weeks as preseason games still are occurring. But that's going to be a question for concern because this team, for the most part, does have some talent. I'm not going to say they don't. They did add some really good pieces on offense the last 2 years, and then acquiring Brock Bowers, and then last year Michael Mayer with their first-round pick, if I'm not mistaken. Offensive line looking still pretty good. You got Colton Miller, who's going to be returning at left tackle, if I'm not mistaken. They did lose one offensive lineman to the Giants, but still overall, I think this is a pretty good unit that will be able to run the ball and perhaps sometimes, and most often not, protect the quarterback, whoever it is, if it's Gardner Minshew or Aiden O'Connell. Now, receiver-wise, I mean, listen, they got Devontae Adams. So, I mean, there's no problems there. Running game, Brandon Jacobs departed, went to the Green Bay Packers. Now, I'm not sure who's going to pick up the slack for them, but it's going to always revert back to the quarterback play. Can whoever will be in charge of the controlling the offense get the job done? That's going to be a big question, and we'll see who that will be after Antonio Pierce convenes with the rest of his coaching staff and they make that decision. Now, on the defensive side of things, the defense, I think, is still going to be not lackluster. It's going to be much improved. I love the signing of Christian Wilkinson from the Miami Dolphins to kind of beef up that interior line. It's going to create some more opportunities for Max Crosby, who don't really need any more opportunities. The guy is a sack monster. He's a beast. But adding Wilkinson will probably help with some more double teams because Wilkinson is not a slouch himself. That run game, that front seven is going to be pretty good, if not really great. And if Tyree Wilson, the guy that they drafted at Texas Tech last year, if he can maybe kind of get past the year that he had last year and maybe break out this year, that'll also be another edge that they can use out there to maybe get some more matchups for themselves to allow Max Crosby out there to do his thing, or anybody else. Maybe Wilson gets after it. Who knows? But if that front seven is going to be some unit that they're going to really have to rely upon, because I'm not really impressed with their not their middle linebacking, but their linebacking core, as well as their secondary. You got guys like Jack Jones, who's been around. He's with the Raiders now, had a stint in New England, not so bad. He's here now. He's going to be relied upon or called upon to be like not a lockdown, but their mainstay corner out there. So we'll have to wait and see what happens with that team, with that unit. But this team is definitely going to have to rely on the defense. I think the defense right now is probably a little bit better than the offensive unit, only because of the quarterback. Now, people may disagree with me in the comment section and say, hey, well, they got Devontae Adams. Yeah, but who's throwing to Devontae Adams? So he plays a position that's dependent on what? The quarterback. And so if you don't have the right guy throwing the ball, doesn't matter who you have out there. You can have Jerry Rice, you can have Randy Moss. It really doesn't matter at this point if you got Devontae Adams. So I think the Raiders is going to heavily rely on their defense, especially their front seven, to get the job done. Maybe force a couple turnovers, maybe play field position, maybe getting off on third down, right? Maybe helping their offensive out when not having to maybe travel 80 yards for a score. So that's going to be the difference there. So as far as wins, predictions, I believe they won 8 games last season. I still have them within that 7 to 10 range. I think this talent, the talent on this team is pretty good. It's pretty good. In comparison to some of the other teams in this division, it's right up there, which we'll talk about later. But I think it's right there. So I think if they win anywhere between 7 and 10, that's kind of like right where they're going to be at. But again, a lot of it can be decided upon who will be playing quarterback, right? Quarterback. That's probably the most important position in football. Outside of maybe like a left tackle or an offensive lineman. quarterback is probably one of the most, it's definitely a premier position, and it's probably the most important position in football. So who is it going to be? We'll see. And then the other thing for me, a concern too, is maybe Antonio Pierce. Like, I know he's a fan favorite as far as or a player favorite in the locker room. I don't know how that will vote later on in the season. Does he have enough X's and O's knowledge, right, to outcoach other coaches within this division, yet alone the National Football League? Or will that honeymoon period kind of end where everyone's like, oh yeah, we love AP, he's the great. He does say the right things. I really hope that it does work out for him. But we'll have to wait and see, because there are some other two good coaches in this division now. So you have to compete with. So there you have it. That's the preview on the Raiders. Now moving on to a team probably a little lacking in talent. That's the Denver Broncos. Obviously, we're going to start with the quarterback. Now, exit stage left. Russell Wilson, enter Bo Nix, and I believe Jason Stidham. Stidham and Nix are competing right now in camp for the starting job. Nix looked pretty good yesterday against the Indianapolis Colts in their first preseason game, but still a long ways to go for this quarterback battle. I think eventually Nix will be the guy. They took him, in the first round, if I'm not mistaken, right? And I think they took him in the first round. I don't remember off the top of my head, but he's a pretty high draft pick, I wouldn't say, nonetheless. And you don't just take a quarterback to just have them sit there, right? Typically, these guys are playing early and often. It's very rare now where these guys get to sit and wait a couple years like a Jordan Love did, or even Patrick Mahomes, right? These guys are pretty much thrust into the starting position within 4 or 5 games of that season, whether teams want to, or they just got to make a change because the guy that they brought in, the veteran, is just not working out. I think that's going to be the situation here in Denver. This team, honestly, offensive line is going to be good. I think, it's going to be anchored by Ben Powers and Mike McGlinchey, and some other notable offensive lineman players there as well. Receiving core, it's not bad. Marvin Mims Jr., Cortland Sutton, they're not number one guys per se, but they are guys that are talented. I know Marvin Mims can take the top off the defense. He's been known to do that, especially back in his day at Penn State. And Cortland Sutton has been pretty solid throughout his 7-year career. Only thing with him is injuries, right? He's been injured the last couple of years, so he does miss a significant amount of time. Running back, I think they're going to have to run the ball like you would with any young team or any young quarterback, because eventually I'm looking at this as that the Denver Broncos are going to play Bo Nix sooner rather than later at some point. So it's a long season, 17, 18 games. He's going to get in there. You're going to have to be able to run the football. But I think the defense, again, kind of like the Raiders, is going to have to be the focal point here for this particular team. I do like the defense. I love their secondary. I like guys like Patrick Surtain. He's back there. The safeties are pretty solid. Now, I don't know if they have enough up front to get after it, so they may have to come up with some exotic blitzes to get after the quarterback. We're used to having household names back there rushing the quarterback for the Denver Broncos. We don't really kind of have that this particular season or going into this year. Now, they do have some really solid guys. I'm not going to say they're complete bums, but nobody that stands out to me that I can really say, wow, like we really got to go watch this guy, like a Max Crosby, something like that. But it's overall a pretty good unit, but they're going to have to rely on the defense to kind of keep them in games, maybe keep it close. And it's going to boil down to just if Bo Nix, when he is the guy, or even if it's Stidham, can they go out and win games? National Football League, time and time again, we've seen quarterbacks going to have to go out and win a game at some point. Defense can only get you so far. Your quarterback's going to have to win you a game or two. And that's the case here. So as far as the wins and losses, this team, I think, only won 5 games last year. So I'm going to say anywhere between 5 and 8, but I'm kind of leaning more towards 6 or 7. Maybe they win one more game this year than they did last year. Sean Payton's really going to have to do a good job again with this team. They don't really have a lot of talent overall in comparison to the rest of the teams in this division. So I'll leave it at that. But I definitely have the Broncos at 6 games. I'll be fair. I'll be nice and give them 6 games. So, all right. Switching over to the LA scene, we got the LA Chargers and their new head coach, Jim Harbaugh, who is fresh off of a national championship with his alma mater, Michigan Wolverines. Now, he has inherited a pretty good roster, I would say. Some people may argue it was one of the better rosters in the National Football League. Now, it's been depleted some sort, but they still got some guys out there. Now, we'll start on the offense. Of course, he inherited a really good quarterback. A lot of people really love Justin Herbert. Like, they think this guy is the next coming of whatever. I don't know what that is. I still have some reservations with him. Now, I understand, he's had some different coaches in his career here. So hopefully Jim Harbaugh will bring some consistency, some stability, and some maturity, right, to the ball club. Something that they've lacked. This team has always they've always really been good as far as on paper, but then something always happens to them. And I don't know if it was because of their coach and Staley, who just really wasn't a great game manager. Jim Harbaugh is that. He is a great game manager. So I think that's going to help Justin Herbert a lot. I really love their offensive line. They're bringing back Rashawn Slater, and then they went ahead and drafted the kid out of Notre Dame in Alt. So that offensive line is going to be really good. And I really like the running backs that they were able to acquire in Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins, especially if they can stay healthy. I really like Gus Edwards. He's a really solid running back, especially because you already know what Jim Harbaugh is going to want to come and do. He's going to want to run that football. He's going to want to run it all the time. Maybe take the ball out of Herbert's hand a little bit. Why? Because guess what? If you look at their wide receiving core, it's a little lackluster, right? If they're counting on Quentin Johnson to really be the guy, that's going to be a problem because I don't think he was the guy. I don't think he was ever going to be the guy. And then the guy Lad McConkey. He's a quick little slot kind of guy. Maybe free up some one-on-ones. Maybe you get him. But they're going to have to run the football. Maybe hoping the defenses will start loading the boxes. You get some one-on-ones, and maybe you guys can go out and win those battles out there on the field. So, but overall, defensively, I'll say this: the defense has some really good players, like notable players, like Derwin James, Joey Bosa. But collectively, they haven't really been a great defense in the last couple of years or so. I think hopefully Jim Harbaugh, like I said, will bring some stability, some consistency to this whole team overall, and that should affect the defense as well. He runs a tight ship, and he's got a pedigree. He's coached in the Super Bowl. He's won a national championship. Everywhere he's been, he has won. So whether it was all the way back in his earlier days at coaching at University of San Diego, the Toreros, right? Then moving on to Stanford, then the 49ers, then Michigan, and now chances are he's probably going to resurrect this Chargers team. So Charger fans, you're probably excited about that. But defensively, they got some guys out there, but will they be able to get it done? But I still like this team talent-wise. And so they're kind of like the Raiders for me. The only exception is that they do have a quarterback. And so I think they can – I'm going to say 7 to 10 wins, but I got them more maybe on the 10 side, closer to the 10 versus the 7 or 8, maybe 9 or 10. But that's the range where I have them in there just because I love Jim Harbaugh and what he brings to the table. And they got some good coaches there too. So shout out to them. Hopefully they can turn things around and bolt up, right? That's what they say in Chargerland. So we'll see. All right. Moving on, the defending world champions led by their all-world, all-pro, all-galaxy superstar quarterback, Patrick Mahomes, number 15. You can't mess with him. Game's on the line. Who do you want to have the ball? It's going to be him. Led his team to win the Super Bowl last year against the San Francisco 49ers. Now, overall, this team is loaded. Offensively, I think they gotten better offensively, right? They lost Tyreek Hill last year. No problem. Go out and win the Super Bowl, right? Now, the kid Rice, he's going to have some legal issues, so he may miss some time, obviously. But they did go ahead and get the fastest kid in the combine, and Xavier Worthy out of Texas. So they got another speedster out there. You still got Kadarius Toney, and then the Marquise Brown. Now he did suffer an injury that's going to put him out about 4 to 5 weeks. But another speedster guy, but no problem, right? I think this receiving core is better than it was last year, and of course you still got. I mean, you got Kelsey out there. Those two, Mahomes and Kelsey. That's like peanut butter and jelly. It just hits home all the time. So, I mean, offensively, offensive line is good. I love Pacheco back there running the ball, toting that rock. Love the way he plays. Andy Reid and his creative mind, his offensive scheme is superb. Better than actually probably the best in all of the league, right? Maybe some other guys may challenge that, maybe a Kyle Shanahan. But he knows what he's doing, and the relationship that he has with his quarterback is crucial. So offensively, no problems there. Defensively, same thing. I mean, Chris Jones is still there. I love their linebacking core. Their secondary was phenomenal. Guys like McDuffie really played their butts off in the Super Bowl or even that playoff stretch, right? But more to point out, in that Super Bowl, that defense kept them in that game to give Mahomes an opportunity to win that football game for them, and they went ahead and did that. So the only thing I would say maybe is the cornerback might be a situation on, I believe it's the right or left side. There's a position battle there between two guys there. I forgot their names off the top of my head, but I do know that might be an area of weakness. But overall, this team is very stout. Got a great special teams kicker in Harrison Butker. Whatever you believe in his politics, he's still a great kicker. This team is phenomenal. Hardest place to play in or go on the road and play against. So they have everything stacked up in their favor. I have no problems with the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, as far as their predictions, I mean, I got them anywhere between 11 and 14, 11 and 13 wins. That's just what they are. I mean, they're really good. Now, one thing people may say, oh, well, Ryan, they got a lot of pressure, which they do, right? I mean, I think they will be motivated. Some teams win the Super Bowl, they have that slump, right? But they're in a position to do something that hasn't been done in quite some time, right? And that's win back to back to back. So I already know they're going to be motivated to get this because it's something that hasn't been done quite too often, right? So motivation is not going to be a problem for this team. It's not. I don't think it is. So I really like them. I think, they're the best team, if not the best team in the National Football League. But we'll talk about some other teams in my other previews as we go along. So, all right, there you have it. Those are the breakdowns of all the teams in the AFC West. Now, as far as the pecking order is concerned, this one was pretty simple. You got to go with the Chiefs at number one. I mean, what more can be said that I have already said about them? So got them at number one. Now, the second place team was a little toss up for me, and I'm going to go with the Chargers. And the only reason why I picked the Chargers over the Raiders is because of the quarterback. I trust the quarterback. Justin Herbert is a somewhat proven commodity right here in the National Football League. He has shown flashes. He can get the job done. And then you pair him with a Jim Harbaugh. That sounds pretty good on paper, right? And then you look at the Raiders with Aiden O'Connell and then Antonio Pierce or Aiden O'Connell or Gardner Minshew. I don't know. I don't know how that's going to play out for them. The Raiders are definitely going to be in the market for a quarterback next year for sure. And I'm not even trying to hate on Aiden O'Connell. I know he's going into his second year, I believe, but he's not the future of that franchise, right? So we'll have to wait and see with them. But that's the only reason why, because talent for talent, I think both teams are talented roster-wise between the Raiders and the Chargers. But this is the quarterback and also the coaching. I got to give the slight edge to the Chargers in that area. And then finally, the Denver Broncos are going to finish last. I mean, you got a rookie quarterback who's going to have to learn a new system at some point when he's thrust into the starting role. I just don't think they have enough horses. No pun intended. I know they're the Broncos, but I just don't think they have enough in their stable, another pun there, to get the job done, especially in a AFC West division that's loaded with talent from across the board. Like if you were literally to make a list of all top 10 players in the AFC West, with the exception of Patrick Surtain Jr., I don't know if the Broncos have anybody else. Maybe they're guys on the offensive line, but other than that, I don't really think anywhere else. So that's just my opinion. So there you have it. I got Chiefs, Chargers, Raiders, and Broncos rounding out the AFC West. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Let me know either way, but be respectful too, man. Come on. It's just football we're talking about here. But other than that, that's all I have. Make sure you guys, if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel and be out on the lookout for the next video. I don't know what division I'm going to do next, but it's going to be a good one too. So other than that, that's all I got. This is your boy, Ryan Flowers, a.k.a. Clutch Sports Talk. Like I always say, never settle till the work is done. We'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.